Today, I am really excited to have a special guest, Catherine Sky, who has done some extensive research on you, and us, and has been looking at this environment that we created, and what seems to be working, not working, and can give us some insight and feedback about what we can do in online environments that we create to try to create the best learning environment that we can. So this, I'm going to add spotlight. I would like to introduce everybody to Catherine Sky. And Catherine, I'm going to make you also a co-host here.
Cool.
There you go. You are now a co-host.
Right. So I can share my screen too.
You'll be able to share screens and do all those good things.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I will just tell you quickly a little bit about myself. I'm an art educator and a visual artist and a very enthusiastic participant in the nature journaling community. And I'm also working on a master's degree in education. And so I had an opportunity to sort of do some self-reflecting and research on sort of the way I was experiencing the nature journaling offerings. So I'm going to go to my screen share, and I just have a couple just quick things to show, and then I was going to open it up to the discussion. All right, so can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so here's the slide, the first slide. Let me open it up. So this sounds academic, but really what it was I was interested in looking at how Jack and also Ivea and some of the other hosts were conducting this business. And so I'll go back to the amazing spring of 2020, which was when I was starting my master's program. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose, and we went through this, what I call a rapid redesign of teaching and learning. All of a sudden, everybody was scrambling to try to figure out how we were going to teach and learn when we couldn't be in the same room together. So what happened was, I'm going to move this down so you can see my Edward Munch there screen. What happened was that I started really needing a community. And so I personally started hooking in with the webinars and the amazing offerings that Jack was providing, and wondering kind of what it was that kept me coming back. And simultaneously, I had an assignment where I had to conduct a case study of an online learning community. So I started thinking, just from my own perspective as an educator, what are the implications of learning in this digital platform now for art educators and for nature educators? And so since I'm in graduate school, I was encouraged to do some research and look at what the literature says about online learning in the arts. And I found out about this guy called Henry Jenkins, who's a professor at USC, and he is an expert in media studies and communication. And he came up with, and others came up with, this idea of a participatory culture, which is, it's an online learning experience that's sort of, it's self-selected and it's somewhat informal, but it's also the way a lot of people are learning nowadays, and a lot of kids are learning nowadays, where you are connecting and hooking up with a place where you can express your interests and you can learn sort of in this informal network. of people. And, it's not a high bar. You don't have to be an expert to join. You can find support through sharing what you do with other people. And there's an element of mentorship. There's also an element of social connection. And one of the things that kind of draws people in is that, you feel like you matter and what you're doing matters, and you're connecting with this community. And so while I was reading about this stuff, I was doing this. I was hanging out with you guys. So I decided to kind of dive into that and try to figure out what was going on. What were Jack and Avea doing that made this so great and so positive, especially when there was so much difficulty going on in the world. So a little bit more research led me to this idea of online hospitality. And it's the idea that audiences need something. They need to feel included. They need to feel respected. They need to feel safe to articulate their own experiences. And this idea of hospitality gives people a sense of belonging and equality. And it creates a really amazing learning environment where it's a communal creation of meaning and thinking. So what I did was I observed some sessions of Ask Jack, some sessions of Pencil Miles and Chill, and some sessions of the Nature Journal's Educator Forum. I also got to interview the amazing and lovely Ivea and found out just a ton of background information on how the whole thing kind of came together. And I learned, oh, this is the research protocol. So while I was doing this, I was filling out these forms while I was participating in the sessions, and just kind of taking notes on what I was seeing.
And we respect that you're also a doodler.
Yes. I don't know if that doodle really lives up to nature journaling expectations.
It helps us think.
That's right. I think there's also some coffee spilled on there too, or something. And this gave me the chance to kind of reflect on myself as not only an observer, but also a participant. And I felt like, my participation, especially in the Pencil Miles and Chill, really it just gave me such an insight into the whole process. And so rather than lurking about as an unidentified researcher, I got to be part of it while I was researching, and do lots of great journal pages in the process. So my findings, so these were kind of the protocols that I looked at. Was one is how a culture of respect was set up. And things that I observed were a few of the techniques that both Jack and Ivea use, is having members begin by sharing their own information. And I think that really equalizes the playing field, and it gives everybody a sense of importance. So I'm letting my events get added to the calendar, and so are you, and we're all equals. Other things I observed was Jack kind of had this ongoing theme of encouraging everybody to really be good citizens in the group and avoid judging others and assuming the best of each other. And I think that's a really good way to conduct any kind of learning environment, either face-to-face or digital. And Avea's rule, which is to be kind, which is so important and so simple, but also forms the basis of an amazing community. And other things that I noticed, I did sort of go back into some of the archived episodes and found some really great sharing and honesty. Sort of both Jack and Avea telling their own truth and telling their own story. And I think that really, really helps everybody feel respected and feel included. So other things I observed is audiences need to know what they think matters. And so I observed what we've all observed is, this really like dedication to making space for sharing and sharing without limits. And one of Jack's gifts and also maybe challenges is that the time limits were so flexible, and I never heard him stop anybody from sharing. And so, it was just like so generous and so gentle with everybody who needed to show a page. And I think it brings everybody joy to see other people's work, but especially when it's just held in such a gentle way. And I think really that's what this is all about, is that it's all about everybody sharing and leaving nobody unheard. Also just the excitement and the curiosity that both Jack and Avea have just for looking at people's work and making connections. And I've seen Jack literally just jump out of his chair, and we all know he'll be like, oh, that reminds me of this and that. And he'll go and grab a book out of his closet. And, it's really such enthusiasm. Other things, the mirroring, I think, is really amazing too. Like repeating back a statement that somebody says really makes you feel like what you're saying matters, and it makes you feel heard, and it helps the group process what other people are saying. So those are a few of the things I observed in, how people feel like what they think matters. Other things, and these categories I found in the research that other educators and researchers have sort of put out there, that this is how you make an audience feel welcome and in community. So the idea of meaning making together and asking these great open-ended questions. I think that was Avea's, what does it feel like to walk in the world as a nature journalist? And Jack, how do we intentionally find ways to connect with people typically left out of the conversation? And so just a lot of time dedicated to answering these great questions and letting the community answer and letting the community sort of shape itself. And then lastly, members finding a sense of belonging. And I heard it from so many people, this idea that the group has given me the feeling of a second family and a place where I can really develop myself. And, these kids that are beaming in from, I don't know, Europe, and it's the middle of the night and they have their headlamp on because their family's sleeping, but coming and showing this amazing work. And also the shared sense of mission, I think, that comes out of a lot of these discussions and meetings, with restoration and taking care of birds and taking care of the world and the planet. So that's another way of creating hospitality, which is linking people in a shared sense of mission. So before I open it up, I'd love to hear what everyone thinks. But I wanted to just sort of bring up the idea of this group, which I had actually not ever, according to Jack and other people I talked to, had not ever imagined themselves being online. And I just think that's such a rich kind of area to probe how they transformed themselves into this just rich offering and this rich online community. And one of the things that everybody talks about is how, the technology has allowed the community to break down barriers of distance. And so now there's this international group of people that are coming from all over the country and all over the world. So in that way, the technology has really facilitated amazing access. And this other idea that I found in the research, that this practice, this kind of learning in community that we're talking about, can be seen kind of as a revitalization of folk culture. And I love that idea that, we're almost kind of like we're a quilting bee or something, we're like coming together the way people used to do, to share skills and create in this communal way. And so the products are not individual, they're communal. And that maybe like, I know that the physical journals are like amazing and incredible to all of us. But I think there's also the idea that we're creating a communal product just in our relationship with each other and our participation in this space. So that's pretty much it. I just want to, I just cut and paste my written conclusion. And I wanted to say that if anybody's interested in reading the paper, I'll put my email in the chat and you can reach out to me and I'll send you a PDF. So I haven't shared it widely. I've shared it within my class and my academic community, but I haven't put it out there to the world yet. So I'd love to pass it on to whoever's interested.
Catherine, this is brilliant. This is beautiful and inspiring. Thank you so much for doing this sort of deep dive and look into our process. I would love to open this up for a conversation with the larger community.
I'm going to stop my share.
Stop that. Yeah, there we go. And what I'd like to do is just anybody that would like to sort of join in conversation with Catherine, just raise your hand. Either you can do that physically or use the raise hand button. I'd love to sort of just, let's take some of these ideas. Where do your thoughts go with this? What does that make you think about? What I'm going to first bring in Rebecca. I think I see you've got your, if that's a hand raised or it was a scratching ear. That was a hand raised. All right. I'm going to add you in here. And so introduce yourself in case there's folks who don't know Rebecca.
So I'm Rebecca. I've been part of this community for the past, I don't know, year and a half, whatever it is now. And I teach the writing workshop Wednesdays, except that they haven't been happening lately, but I'm going to restart it when I can. But anyway, I just wanted to say that when I saw this was the topic for today, I was imagining it would be more of like, all those little tips and tricks of like, how do you make things interactive and how do you make things more engaging? But this was so much more than that. Like, you've got so much at the deep level of what really makes this work and what really makes everybody comfortable and able to participate. And I think a lot of it is stuff that for those of us in the community at this point is just like, yeah, that's obvious, that's just how we do it. But I think it's so important to really pin it down and to say this is what we're doing, and this is why it works. So yeah, that was just my first thought. Thanks.
Yeah, this just kind of reflection when we've talked before about metacognition, right? Thinking about how we think about things, and this, and then when you think about how you think, then you think better with your thinking thoughtfully. And this is like this big old dose of when you're in the lived experience, it's hard to be also looking down from a higher altitude and getting the big picture. But I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Rebecca. It's an insight into our process. It feels right to me, and I don't think I could have or would have put this together without you doing this. So I just want to, I absolutely agree with what you're saying there, Rebecca, that this kind of took my brain next level.
Yeah, well, and I think it's so interesting to just think about it in the context of this happening, this sort of being a thing in education is that without many of us realizing it, this is how the new learning is happening. I think even before the pandemic, I think, and if you sort of pay attention to how kids are learning, they're doing this, they're going where they're interested, they're connecting, they're learning from each other. And it's really important for educators to know, that's happening. And I think now, because of the pandemic, we're all experiencing it.
Yeah, and it's not just that it's like new, like, hey, we're on Zoom, right? I think what you are really kind of helping us think about is like when, for me, it kind of crystallized when it's interesting. I'm just getting emotional thinking about what we as a group have built together, and the things that you're emphasizing, these relationships, friendships, connections. I wouldn't have thought of Zoomland as being a place where these pieces come together, but you've helped us sort of see that map, and maybe that is that, the new frontier of learning. It's not about the technology. It is that within this technology, how do you find heart, and how do you find connection, and how do you build relationship in a technology when I'm over here in this room and you're over there in that room?
And I think it's almost like, with me, I think, I had to be forced into doing this because I would always be like, ew, online learning, blah, I would never want to do that. That's, especially with, something like nature journaling or any kind of teaching that I'm interested in. I was just like, blah, online learning, gross. So I'm glad that, life forced me into this situation of opening up to it.
Most of my career has been trying to get people to do less screen time.
Yeah.
And here we are, and then we'll do these long playing sessions. Yeah, it's going to be a 1-hour class.
Yeah, and then we spend the whole afternoon together.
Yeah, and it isn't interesting, like the pull of that, like I and you're quilting the analogy. Was it anybody else would like to join in on this conversation? Love to hear what you're thinking and what you're feeling. Joni, thank you for sharing. So we'll go to Joni and then Aisha. Hey, Joni.
Hi. I've been around for quite a while, not a regular attendee, but of recent I have more often, or regularly, I should say. But I want to say I'm a retired teacher, 30 years, and I've never seen a community like this that is so filled with love. And I don't think it matters whether this was a group who were teaching cooking or knitting or whatever the subject matter is. It's the fact of the respect and acceptance and love that comes from this community. It just, not even groups that I've been in person with have I ever witnessed such devotion and community. And even I'm a big bird watcher and naturalist and so on. And even these online groups that start out very nice, well, they tend to morph into some ugliness too. So I don't really feel like there's that much distance between us, no matter where we are in this world. When we come together here, I feel like you're here in my town or a neighbor or something like that. And yet, the other side of that is how awesome it is to think that we are coming from all around the world. And I love seeing the young people here who have devoted their time to show up from all over the world. So it's just, I think it's an amazing thing. And I think it wouldn't happen without the leadership that it has, Jack. You've modeled it all and led and taught. And so therefore we have all these other people involved who are hosting and doing their own clubs and so on, who are following your example. And I just want to commend everyone, and I love showing up for this anytime I can. So that's all I have.
That's another thing I found in the educational research too, is this idea of tributaries. And I think that's something that Jack does so well, is that he has so many satellite people that are connected and doing their own nature journaling clubs. And that's also what makes the community broad and strong.
Yeah, I feel like too that pretty much anyone who shows up here could be leading something, because everyone's just involved and accepted, and because it's such an accepting environment, they feel empowered.
Oh, and it's also free. I mean, that's something like, it's so obvious, but at the same time, like, there's no gate, like anyone can come. And that's amazing.
Right.
I also want to be really clear though, that for me, this process, I had no idea what I was getting into, and it's been a huge learning experience for me, but technically and also in just the act of loving kindness and showing up for each other. Vea, is it okay if I pull you in on this, because I'm gonna say something about you. Like I remember for me, a big turning point in the way that I thought about what we were doing was the day that you decided that you weren't going to cancel classes over the holidays, because even though there would be fewer people, you knew that for some people that was an especially lonely time, and they may need it the most then. And that reframing of that stunned me, because I hadn't really been thinking of it that way. And once you said that, I was thinking, of course, and then that, influenced my behavior. So we're also, learning from each other, and what, say, or the way that you've taken stewardship and brought that into the forefront of what we're doing, sort of caring for each other, and then connecting that with sort of caring for the earth. So I didn't come to this with a plan or agenda, but this has been morphing for me too. And I feel that over this time together, I have changed significantly as a human being because of my contact with you in this community.
I feel like for me, I was worried too about like how technology would translate, but I feel like I came here already knowing what the community could feel like, because I was lucky enough to have classes with Jack in person for a couple of years before the pandemic began. And why I kept coming back to you, and I know I've said this before, is because you were kind from the very beginning. And I value kindness greatly. That's my greatest value. And so you already had that tone in the community. And because you were leading the classes, and because you're a community leader, you make it really, really easy for the rest of us to follow your tone of kindness, because that, to me, it feels like that's equally important to looking at the nature. It's not just like a little side note. It's equally a foundation in what we all do together. So that for me was just continuing, and the online community continuing that, but you found new ways of showing it to people. Like I would watch how you would reach out to people and let people share their experiences and how they were feeling when they were struggling. Because we've struggled a lot during COVID, and I think it's challenging because in society we're taught to not talk about things that are hurting us. And so for people to be able to acknowledge it and not be ridiculed or shunned is special. I had an experience with that here on the Nature Journal Educators Forum when I disclosed about being a domestic abuse survivor. And the fact that the fact that everybody here was kind to me really meant a lot to me. And so with Pencil Miles, that was me stepping out of my comfort zone. I was just planning to just do it twice because my friends Gargi and Akshay had begun it. And I was planning to just do it twice after everything kind of petered out after a few months. And then Brian Higginbotham, being a mischief maker, was like, Yvea is doing this every week. I wasn't about to make him wrong, so okay. And when you were talking about how the holidays were difficult for people, when you were talking about how people were probably going to have a hard time not being able to be together over the holidays, that's what inspired me to say we should meet on Christmas anyway. And it wound up being the session with more people than we've ever had. Maximum in Pencil Miles and Chill, we've had maybe 14, 15 people, but that particular day we had 30 or 40. And then the same thing on New Year's. So I plan to make that a thing we do every year, just so that people will not have to be alone, because even when it's not COVID times, I think that a lot of people get really, really lonely on that day, on a lot of the big holidays. A lot of people, maybe they don't have somebody that they can celebrate with, or maybe the people that they love are far away. So we're just going to be doing this every year, I plan. But thank you for, like, Catherine, just hearing your research. I can sort of, I can follow examples that I hear and I can intuitively try things, but sometimes I have a difficulty clearly thinking this is the exact thing we're doing. And you helped so much just by putting into words what was making this successful. So I know that if I'm having struggles with leading, because I have social anxiety, so sometimes I get, twitchy or whatever, then I can look back on what you said was working and think, oh, I can do this, that, and this. So thank you for that, because that is really going to help continue knowing how to keep being supportive and how to try to keeping this community a safe and happy place for people. So I really, really appreciate that you did that.
Well, I think you both have really very finely attuned natural instincts for this kind of work. So
Thank you.
And again,
Wait.
I think for a lot of us, there's in this process, this is incredibly transformative for us as well. I'm a significantly different person because of this relationship. I'd love to bring Aisha in to add her insights and
Wait, Ivea left?
oh, I didn't make her go away.
No, I did it myself. I can come back. I'll come back.
Yeah, come on back.
Come on, Ivea.
So I actually kind of sort of just a little footnote that kind of is kind of things. Something that I find is that when there's one talking head on the screen, you feel like you're looking at a presentation. But part of our social interaction is when we're kind of reacting and responding to each other. And so when possible in conversations, I try to intentionally have several of us there so that there is some of that interaction. I know that sometimes I leave it on too long and people are like, would you please get me off your screen? Hey. And so sorry for everybody, but but for people who are kind of facilitating discussions, just sort of the way that what you can do is you can click away over to your screen where you get to see everybody, so you see like who also wants to engage in that, and then we can kind of get this this sort of partridge family thing going on here. Right? And but yeah, we love having you around, Eva. Hey there, Aisha. Good to see
I know,
you.
Ivea, you'd been on screen so long, and I was like, by then responding to you in my head, as well as Catherine and Jack. And I was like, okay, if you remove a person, I just got completely scattered. But I love the holiday thing. I wish I had known about it, but now I do. I had a couple of thoughts that came to mind after seeing Catherine's presentation. Thank you for that. And just everything else that came up. One, I just wanted a moment to give a shout out to all of us who were anti-screen people, really. And for me, it was a traumatic experience, really. I have to say there was trauma, and it still comes up sometimes for me. So, I think we're all a group who really, really believed in being present in a particularly strong way than perhaps broader society. So just, a shout out to all of us that we did it, and we found its positives and strength within it, and we found healing by having this, right? I certainly found some healing in it, and even if I go to that place of like, oh my God, that was a shock and trauma, I'm like, oh yeah, but it's smoothed out with this. The other thing I wanted to share, and at my school, I know the IT people were like, okay, Aisha, you're doing pretty well, given that you're just never digital. You're figuring this stuff out, which was helpful. The other thing I wanted to say that came up sort of to mind after listening to Catherine is, I know there's some of us who are here who are sort of independent educators as opposed to at a school. For those of you who have been hearing me speak for a while, I had to quit my school after 10 years because of the incredible stress. So I'm having to reconfigure myself because I still can't face walking into a school. Actually, I just can't do it yet. Yeah. So I'm, reforming as an independent educator educator doing workshops here, workshops there, some adult ones, not even sure I can do that much student work again immediately. But, you know, I've also signed up for an after school one enrichment class to put my foot back in. And all of it's going to include a bit of nature journaling, but other nature education, since that's my background. But where I'm leading to with all that as part of my bio, trying to write an authentic bio, because now I have to sell myself, which feels weird. And I'd started off with all that boring, like degree from, experience with, learning from, right? And at some point I was like, well, what sets me apart, or what is authentically me? Maybe not even sets me apart, but what is authentically me? And I found myself including sentences based on what Catherine, Jack, and we were all talking about, that I am a teacher who brings relationship to it, my teaching. I am a teacher who brings relationship to plants, the natural world, and my students. I'm like, this is who I'm going to bring, right? And I just wanted to share that for anybody else who is pitching their classes, whether free or paid. You know, who are we? And that's part of who we are. And I think it's, you know, it is a world where we have to stand out a little bit, even if we're not trying to be competitive. I need somebody to hire me so I can pay my rent. And if I'm trying to form an online community or in-person community, I want to attract people with that sort of thinking too. You know, my botany class is like, I'm making it very clear, we're not going to go taxonomy, native plant society direction. We're going to be observers and relationship builders and then the right people will come and they'll be happy and I'll be happy and we'll be able to hopefully proceed together. So I just wanted to share that I'm on that journey myself. You know, I've never had to do that, right? Resumes are always the boom, 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 where you kind of keel over just reading it.
And if there's any way that we as a community can also help you in and support you in that, please let me know, let us know.
You were such a boost as a community. I don't know if you remember, I came with the question of, can I even teach nature journaling? I'm not qualified. And there was so much jump in that I felt so good, and I have not lost faith since. And I just responded to Fibershed and said, yeah, I'm in, you know, and that right there was just like a kick in the pants.
Yeah.
And I sort of started paying attention. I was like, what are you really interested in, Aisha? And I was like, yeah, you're interested in more of that and botany. So I might tap into IBEA at some point. But thank you, Jack. You already helped me with letting me use a piece for the newsletter advertising. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Brave new world trying to form.
So Rebecca had a really interesting comment that she dropped into the chat that tied, yeah, but I get a quick drink because we're going to spotlight you again, that tied into what you were just talking about. Rebecca, may I bring you back in on this?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I related a lot to what you were saying, Aisha, because I'm also working to become an independent educator and teach my own classes as my career, as some of the other people in this community do, like Jack and like Melinda and Marley and people like that. And so I've been learning a lot about online entrepreneurship and doing your own business, which again is something before COVID, I would have never thought of myself as an entrepreneur or a business person ever. But it's really fun to learn about all this. And one of the pieces of advice I keep finding from different teachers in that space is this idea of like, you have your own, people call it different things, but like your own unique cultural culture ad or your own unique angle, whatever people call it. But it's the idea that if you have something unique about yourself, either your perspective, your background, the angle that you take, and instead of that's being something that you know, have to hide or tone down, it's like, that's your thing. That's your,
What's
you're
an
the person for
interesting
that.
point? I'm still so scared to bring that in. I'm in
And
very white marin. So I'm just like, but that's a good thing to think about a bit too.
yeah, I mean, and we get to choose what parts of ourselves
Yeah.
we show and like how we market ourselves, but the idea that you know, what makes us authentic and what angle we want to take is what's going to make us stand out, and what we can bring that will so that we don't just seem like the same as everybody else if we're trying to market ourselves. And to me, that's something that feels really freeing, because before I got into that, I was trying to apply to so many jobs and not getting any of them. And I felt like for all of them, there were so many that my qualifications like almost lined up, but not quite. And they wanted things that were very, very specific. And I felt like I was always trying to like force myself into the box of whatever they put in the job description. And I was always like, you know, trying to make it seem like I was the best person for it when I really wasn't. And it didn't feel authentic, and it didn't feel like it wasn't really making me happy. So I just think that's an opportunity that we have if we're doing something independent, that we get to showcase what is our strength, what's our interest and passion. And it is scary, but it's, yeah, what do we have to offer, and what do we have to share with the world that nobody else can do?
And Rebecca, you're a great example of that. So people were teaching these nature journaling classes, you know, about how to draw squirrels, how to draw rocks, how to draw a thermos, how to draw, you know, whatever it was. And you realize that there's this, that writing was something you were passionate about, and that we talk about these words, pictures, and numbers, but we weren't walking the walk, right? And you created the Writing Workshop Wednesdays, and it is a real authentic need. And you weren't just sort of fitting into like, you know, this is what everybody else is doing, this is what I should be doing. You're figuring out like, this is something that is, this is Rebecca. And then you came out there and you rocked it.
Oh, and can I just say one thing? One of you mentioned that unique selling point. Yeah, that's kind of a grim capitalist term. And yeah, I think the thing about like selling yourself or your ideas, it does feel like very capitalist, where like, I don't know, I just want to say that the way that I like to think of it is like in braiding sweetgrass, or like in those kind of ideas. It's like we all have a gift, or you know, you might say like our unique genius, which I know I've talked about with Jack and the conference, whatever. But like, what's our unique gift? Just like everything in nature has a gift to share with the world, and what's our gift, and how can we share that with the world? And it's not as much about like, oh, how do you sell yourself? Like, how do you market yourself? How do you make yourself and your knowledge into a commodity? It's more like, what are your gifts, and how can you share that? That's how I like to think of it.
Yeah,
That's a nice way to say it too. You know, and I was thinking, Rebecca, just if you don't mind my adding in, it's been interesting. I've been working a little bit with a therapist who's mostly an energy worker, right? And I think a lot of us who are really deep into nature really are responding to very energetically sensitive as well. And she's like, you know, you just don't fit in an institution. Like, that is just not right for you. You should have been out of there years ago. And your unique gifts get stomped upon in institutions. So she just kind of gave me this whole other perspective also, that it wasn't that I failed by stepping out, but it was never a right fit. And if I wanted to live my authentic self and to stay focused on authentic self, and it would feel right, like Rebecca's saying, what feels right. And as long as I proceed that, she's like, things will fall in place if you're following your authentic self, because then you're asking the right questions and you know, it's been interesting. And she's right, you know, things are falling into place. As long as I pay attention to like, oh, I'm excited about that, as opposed to pushing hard to fit that box. And I know sometimes we have to push hard to fit in the box, you know. She's also like reality. You got to say sometimes to your soul spirit, body has to be fed, have to do the box today or this year or these 5 years. So it's been interesting putting all those pieces together. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
And thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing your experience, Rebecca, because you've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, thanks. And good luck, Aisha. We're in this together.
That's right.
Both trying to figure it out.
And there will be there's an upcoming educator workshop about how do we make this sort of financially work for ourselves. So beware that there's, you know, talking about those sort of fundamentals of like, you know, really at the end of the day, got to get beans. How do we make that work? We're going to be actually devoting an hour program for us to brainstorm on that together. Katie, you had your hand up a moment ago, and I'm sorry that I didn't call on you earlier. Is it still, can we bring you in on the conversation?
Sure. Yeah, I was just gonna comment on Rebecca's comments. Like, I love that you talked about, you know, finding your gifts and like valuing those gifts that each person has. And I've noticed that a lot of people who are nervous to post their work or post, you know, share what they've been working on. Like, I think that there's something beautiful that you can find about every piece of work, no matter how experienced or novice someone's work is, whether that's a color that they chose or the way they drew a certain line or the subject that they picked or anything. And I really like what you said about finding those gifts, not only as a person, but I think it also relates to finding the beautiful things within each piece of work, within each drawing that you do, no matter how experienced or novice you are.
Yeah. It's such an important point, and it, you know, it applies to us professionally, and it applies to, you know, being willing to put marks down on paper. We're all kind of, you know, judging ourselves, comparing ourselves, and that can, you know, Brene Brown does such a wonderful job of kind of talking about how we all kind of, a lot of us have this sort of imposter syndrome, with the voice in your head saying, you know, you're not worthy, right? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you're fooling? Who are you? And I have that too, and that is that's a force between us and the genius inside you, a wall between you and your creativity and your joyful expression of being alive.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat too. I'm trying to put my educational program out there, realizing that, you know, there really isn't funding for what I want to do. And so I'm, you know, and I love working in schools, and that's where I want to be. But I have, you know, every school I'm in, I'm always aware that I don't really fit in with what their main sort of purpose is. You know, I'm just the person working in the garden, or, you know, taking the kids on a nature walk, or, you know, doing art projects. And that, you know, as much as schools want to give that lip service, they're not really putting up the dollars. So it's hard. And I have so much experience, you know, and I love doing it, and it's frustrating.
It's insanely frustrating. Catherine, I was at a public school for 12 years before the next one. And I was spending more time writing grants than I was teaching,
Yeah.
and more time having discussions with the director, because all the grants were supposed to come from her. They weren't interested in me, lowly educator, which was like horribly demoralizing. But I had the responsibility to get everything written because I was the only one who knew the program. And by, year 12, I was like, I want to teach, I'm done. And a private school was kind of like, ooh, we'll use you to market our school. And I was like, okay, I just need a salary and to work and to teach. But it was like, I still feel that demoralization. Like I'm not running around even to schools, even if I was ready, because I'm like, the funding situation hasn't changed.
Yeah.
They want everything. They want everything for free. It's like, if you know about kids, plants, or art, they want you to volunteer.
Yeah. I was in art. I had a full-time position teaching art in the Chicago public schools. And even then, I was the first one they called when they couldn't find enough substitutes or, whatever. It was always kind of like, well, you're expendable. Your program's great,
Yep.
but we actually really need you to teach reading for the first 2 hours of the day. So
yeah, they did that to all the specialists during the pandemic. We were pawns. Oh, can you cover lunch? Can you cover recess? Too bad you have a class right after that you're supposed to prep for. Oh, and do report cards and all that. But go, manage.
I think this kind of teaching is so important right now. This nature education is, I really think it's the only thing that's going to save us from climate change. It's if we're getting the next generation to understand what it is and to have appreciation for it and take care of it.
Or even to how to find solace, because climate change is here. So now I'm just like, I'm not stopping it. Those kids will be grown up in many years, but maybe I can help them find ways of solace. Or adults.
I love it. Every kid I've worked with loves it. So it's the powers that be up above.
That's right. We are teaching connection with nature. We are teaching mindfulness. We're teaching kindness. We're teaching respect for each other. We're teaching how to fundamental ideas about how to think, how to analyze evidence, how to be on the planet in a way that's going to be sustained. What we do is critical. What we do as educators is so powerful and important. We live in a society that devalues it and defunds it. And this conversation that we're starting here, this is also going to continue in an upcoming Nature Journal Educator workshop, where we want to actually talk, more deeply about the funding, because there's also the little dilemma that we have as independent operators, where I want to reach as many people. This is my mission. Like, I think probably you look around the screen, like everybody actually just kind of turn over to the gallery view for a second, just out of curiosity, show of hands, how many people are mission driven, that you're doing this not for the money? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we're mission driven, but then we also need to eat, right? And we live in a society where if you are doing something that is for the good, then people start saying, well, then you should be doing it for free, or you're a sellout, or your heart isn't really in the right place, or you're just trying to use this as a mask. If I were doing something and I were just trying to make money, people would say, oh, you're such a good business person, right? But the minute that what you're doing is for the good, then there's an assumption that you should be doing it for free. And the problem with that is that it's not sustainable. And
I have a feeling that they're also, I have a feeling that they're also on to us, that we are mission driven. I felt my admin knew that.
Right.
And they took advantage of that.
So
because I got so much out of achieving my mission, you know, that they could not meet other needs.
So part of our discussion will be and continue to be, you know, how can we advocate for ourselves? How can we kind of clarify to other people so upcoming Nature Journal Educator workshops, we've got one on the elevator pitch, which is how can we kind of come up with a brief, clear, succinct way of expressing what we're about and what we're doing and why we're doing it. Being able to make that argument clearly to different people with different value sets. We're also going to have one about where we're going to talk about money and funding. How do you do that as a solo person? How do you do that? How can we kind of work together? We are in the process of actually starting a nonprofit organization around nature journaling to support you. And we can give you more information about that, but that's there are some things that's not going to be the answer to the problem, but it will be a tool in our quiver. In kind of I'd like to come back to, so we will return to that discussion about funding and those sorts of things, but I would just like to return to what Catherine started us with. And Catherine, you did a deep look at what's going on here, and you helped us kind of clarify for ourselves what both I saw somebody put in the chat, you know, not just sort of the how of things, but the why. And that was, your work is, I think you're right. I think your assessment of what went on here is right. And I want to encourage you to publish that paper. And we would love to share that and kind of help spread that around as a fundamental thinking tool. Mm-hmm. You've talked to us today about building friendships, about building relationships, about the connections between us, tools to do that, and things that you saw that kind of filled this space, made this a place that was safe and filled it with love.
Well, I'm just reflecting it back at you. Just the mirror.
Is there as you kind of take a look at your kind of your fundamental conclusions about what you saw, what for you, at the end of the day, what right now is sort of standing out to you as kind of key kind of take homes for us?
Oh, wow.
Or what was that last paragraph that you put?
Yeah, I know. I'm rereading it. Let me see
what
was I said.
You know, Catherine, you should actually read that article by Catherine Skye.
Yeah,
She's got game.
It'll be widely available soon. I think, you know, what really struck me was the fact that, you know, you all hadn't envisioned yourself as an online program. And then all of a sudden, the life situation required it, and that you ended up making it this really powerful experience. So it's kind of that way of adjusting and using using the difficult situation to make lemonade, I guess, and doing it so flawlessly and effortlessly. And also just kind of like what an amazing experience it was and still is for all of us to participate in this. And I think, it's only going to get better, right? And I'm back to teaching in person, and I really like teaching in person, I have to say. So I'd love to do some nature journaling in person with all of you too at some point.
And we will again.
Yes.
We will again. Catherine, thank you so much for this was hard.
You're so welcome. It's also my birthday, and I've just been given some birthday flowers.
Aww.
So maybe I think I'll nature journal them.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Yay! Happy birthday. And all right,
Happy
so
birthday, Catherine.
and you know what we do about birthdays around here?
Oh no, I didn't know.
Oh yeah. What we do, Ivea started us on this. So maybe just to kind of, this is just another example of kind of a community norm that is, wait, hold on. I got to put Aisha's screen up here, just giving you a virtual bouquet of flowers.
Oh, thank you. I love it. Those look ready for some seed saving too.
Happy birthday.
That's right. Kind of just sort of this sort of started out as part of Ivea's personal practice, and it has Ray Bonto. I'm going to bring you.
Thank you, Ray Bonto.
So more flowers. Hold on, I'm going to take a look over here.
Oh, so
and
sweet.
actually, this is new. We've never done this before. Anybody else? If you've got some flowers, here we go. Check this out. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. There we go.
Oh, I need to take a screenshot. Give him the next paper.
Actually, this has never happened before. This is new.
The whole screen is turning up flowers.
Oh my goodness. Here we go.
Oh my God, that's so sweet.
There we go. We've got yep. But I'm also going to bring on actually, Lisa, I'm going to bring on the botanical model. Way to rock it like a botany teacher. Something that Ivea started, and wow, Rebecca, I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
Hi. I don't have any flowers, but I have this Totoro.
Of course it's a Totoro. And then I'll hold up my water bear. What I want to do then to bring us kind of out on this sort of birthday thing, I'm going to spotlight Ivea here, and I'm going to go out and do the thing. Got a plant there. Yep. Tell us about what you kind of got us started doing, and because it's just a beautiful thought.
So one thing that we can do on each other's birthdays to celebrate the person whose birthday it is, and then also the beautiful planet we live on, is that we can go out and I personally like to do beach cleanups, but any sort of act of stewardship, you can go out on your birthday and others can go out in your honor. Be that picking up trash in, a beach or your neighborhood, or planting plants in your honor, or just doing stewardship acts like that is kind. Something I started doing when I was 16. I was told to choose a birthday party by my parents. They're like, choose a sweet 16 birthday. And I don't really like parties, I feel awkward. So I was like, let's go clean the beach. And they're like, okay, crazy hippie child, we'll go clean the beach. And we've been doing it every year since on my birthday. And so now we're going to celebrate you the same way. We will go and we will make the world a better place in your honor, Catherine. So happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much, everybody.
That's, yeah, happy birthday. So so here's my vow is I am in honor of your birthday. Before I go pick up thing 1 and thing 2 from school, I'm going to go head out to a little place where an urban creek comes down to San Francisco Bay and carries a lot of trash down with it. I'm going to bring 2 big trash bags with me, and I'm going to do a cleanup in honor of your birthday.
Oh, yay,
And
thank
want
you.
to invite anybody else that wants to kind of go do just, you can make it as big or as small a project as you want. And we're doing this for Catherine. So Catherine, you gave us a great gift today. Your research is inspiring and also helps us metacognitively reflect, and that's going to make our work better. So thank you so much for being with us and for sharing this today.
My pleasure.
It was your birthday, but you were the one who gave the gift to us. So thank you.
Well, that's the best birthday gift of all, to share the love and the knowledge.
I'm just looking over here at the chat. Dawn is going out kayaking, cleaning up the lake near where she lives in Virginia.
Oh, great.
for her
That's
birthday.
my birth neck of the woods there.
So hey everybody, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being part of this beautiful community, this beautiful fellowship. It's changing all of us.
Can somebody, before we go, tell me how I can save the chat?
Oh, so if you click on chat, if you're on the computer, then you go down to the area where you're supposed to write in, you go over to the right and you should see these 3 dots.
Okay.
And then you click down on that one, and then it should just say save chat at the very top.
Okay, cool. And then where does it go?
It usually creates some kind of a random folder within your documents.
Okay.
You go to documents and then you go to Zoom and then you go to the date.
Okay, awesome.
Although if anybody is on either a mobile device or on an iPad, I know it's harder to save. So if you ever need the chats saved, you can always write to me and I can send them to you in your email. You can't save them. I'll just put my email in the chat in case anybody needs that.
Okay.
Dear friends, until next time, be kind, be safe. You are not alone. In so many ways. Every act we do or don't do has its ripples and creates its connections or its isolation. And we're building something together here that is beautiful. The work that you do as educators, it changes the world. And the world is a better place because of the work that you are doing. And thank you all. And we'll see you here again soon.
Thank you, everybody. And Catherine, big birthday hugs. Birthday hugs.
Birthday hugs. or the side hug. No, that's too awkward. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.